What I'm objecting to here is all of this obstruction of justice, all of these sandbags, all of this money, all of this RICO, and you never get justice. And so we are up to page 10. Well, Glendora did that, and that is what went out, and that is what went out on July the 10th, and it cost so much time, money, and labor. And then comes Cohen with wanting more. Cohen and Costello is like Abbott and Costello. And then after you jump through all these hoops, and you give them your food money, and they never give you what you so naively sought, justice. And here is Glendora, horribly abused as to her public access TV rights by Diane Bennett and Alyssa Amato, Cablevision in Nassau County. And she pays $315 to get her public access rights back in Columbia County Supreme Court. The judge there is totally dishonest and dishonorable and incompetent. That's C.F. Hummel. And so she pays $65 to go to the Court of Appeals, this court, and what does she get? Hoop jumping, pay another $45, obstruction of justice, tinsel and jingle and jangle. Does she get her rights protected? No. And meanwhile, cheaters Bennett, Amato, and their liar for hire, Sadly, Cattley, Sawrock, violate the law and shame America. Folks, is this adequate? Is this worth the 8% on everything that we buy in the state of New York? Pay this predatory state 8% of everything, plus everything that we buy? Is this equal and commensurate to the requirement? And all we ask for is justice? What do we get all along the way? Sandbags. Is this enough? Is this sufficient? Does this fully fulfill the proposed end? No. These clerks get about $80,000 a year. These judges get, Supreme Court judges are now getting about $150,000, $155,000, so they must be getting about $170 or $180. Is it a RICO? Yes, it is. What's a RICO? A racketeer influence crime organization. They are an enterprise. Their motive is money. They use extortion. And they commit thousands of predicate acts a year. Where does Glendora go for justice? We will take all of them, folks. We'll take all of them. The law-breaking defendants, the evil liar for hire, the countenancing judge. We will take all of them to the big good judge in the sky. And then we will get justice. And then Bennett through Cohen will get what they are due. Boycott the courts. Do not give them any money. Starve them. Then they cannot justify their expense to the public. And the judges and the clerks will atrophy, and they will have to go out, and they will have to earn an honest living. We should not spend time with these people. Money is one thing, time is another, but they are such bad people to be with. We should spend our time with good people, where honor, honesty, kindness oscillates around us. Glendora turns down Stewart's invitation. She will not enter through the sinister doors of Appeals Hall, the money machine of obstruction of justice. Appeals Hall satisfies not the desire. The New York State Court of Appeals is driven as a kid. Give him a badge and a gun, and he thinks he is Napoleon. And that badge, if you notice, brings out the bad. That's just what they are, just like a kid that you turn into a cop. He thinks he owns the world. But the courts being frivolous instead of functional is just what the international bankers want. Folks, they don't want us to have rights and protections and justice. Face it, they don't want us to have courts. The courts are owned by the international bankers. They are owned by the international bankers. You, Stuart Cohen, you are owned. You are just a puppet of the international banker. The courts are a vast moral and intellectual abyss. They are academic. They're not expected to produce a practical result. Glendora wants her $65 back. We were on page 16 out of 24. And Glendora wants her $315 back. And the $315 was a cheat. And now Hummel wrote me a letter yesterday, and he's begging for another $45 for a motion to consider Glendora's motion for relief from his totally incompetent order of May the 17th, 2006. Doesn't this disgust you, public? Does this fully fulfill the proposed end? What is a Troy surrogate judge doing in a Columbia County Supreme Court? Glendora did a 1.5-hour TV interview of a widow who was left $24 million by her husband. And she hasn't seen it. And it is being squandered and nibbled at by dirty lawyers, dirty surrogate judges, by dirty bankers' trust, which is a felon. Who is a felon? And that's more predatory court work. And that will be on your internet, folks, and your TV set. It's the program before this one. It's a couple of programs. I interviewed her for an hour and a half. I felt so sorry for that woman. Her name is Suzanne McCormick. You would think, folks, that these people in the courts would love seeing a little person like us get justice, but they do not. They don't care about you. They always go with the big guys, the money, the power. They turn their backs on the Holy Grail, and they did this decades ago. And folks, do you know that these hollow black robes do not have a license to practice in the state of New York? No lawyer has a state license. All they have is a union card from a nasty union called the American Bar Association. Now, would you go to a doctor who didn't have a state license? Of course you wouldn't. And yet these lawyers get away with the scum and the scam daily. Well, you know now. Now this is an allocution. This is total disenchantment with you, New York State Court of Appeals. And let's read to them from this book, When Power is Misused. When Power is Misused, by Jeff Olson. And it tells about men who take the strength and the great gifts that God has given them and how they turn it into a tool for self-aggrandizement. That's what the courts are, of self-aggrandizement. Honor, power, money, position, preferment, instead of taking these great blessings and giving them to you. And so we quote this book at length for you to read. And what's behind the misuse of strength? Near the end of the classic film The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy and her 3 companions meet up again with a mysterious wizard. No one had ever seen the great and powerful Oz, but his booming voice portrayed him as a mighty force to be reckoned with. That is, until Dorothy's little dog, Toto, pulls away the curtain to Oz's control room, showing him to be a small, insecure man with a weak and unassuming voice. That's you, New York State Court of Appeals. And this letter to you, I close with, to you, my TV audience, and my internet audience, I close with, ever with my love and care for your happiness, 100%, Glendora. And this is Opus 1429, folks. It took 8 hours and it cost $3.24. And it's on the internet at circa 4,408 programs. And it's edition 15 for this 2 to 3 week period. And we sent a copy to Judith Kay, the Chief Judge of the State of New York, who replaced Saul Walker, who ended up in federal prison. And we sent a copy to Stuart M. Cohen, and we have a copy for Who to Sue. And it ends at page 26 with 2 more pages from When People Abuse Their Power. This woman was in a store, and she wanted to buy this dress, and it was $150, and the clerk guaranteed a fit, and surely enough, when the woman took the dress home, her husband had one. He had a fit. And Peter says, I always let my wife have the last word, and Joseph says, you're lucky, mine never gets to hers. Don says to his wife, trouble with you, you don't have a sense of humor. And the wife says, well, I certainly do have a sense of humor, and I have a document to prove it. And Donald says, what document? And the wife says, here's the marriage license. You've overdrawn the checking account again. No, I haven't. You underdeposited. Some people, when they get married, folks, I look at them, the only thing they have in common is they got married on the same day. People in Manhattan have a delightful way of making a long story short. Have you ever noticed? They interrupt. Marilyn says the four-letter words that she doesn't like about being married are cook, wash, dust, and iron. Where'd you meet your wife? At a travel bureau. She was looking for a vacation, and I was a last resort. Well, it's pretty near time to cook dinner, and really, folks, there's nobody who cooks like me, except the United States Army comes pretty close to it. Paul said, my wife and I had words, and I didn't get a chance to use mine. And why did Georgianne put popcorn into the pancake batter? Why did she put popcorn into the pancake batter? So the pancakes would flip over by themselves. This is Glendora, a cheerful look at life. 2 minutes of goodwill, good cheer, and good humor. I want to talk to you again about Paul, who's writing to Timothy, and he says, at my first defense, I stood alone. Nobody stood with me. They all forsook me. And then he says right away, but don't hold it against them. He said, I stood, or God stood with me, and God strengthened me. In your search for that box of riches, that great, great big box that has everything that you want in it, all the money you want, all the houses you want, all the cars you want, all the love you want, all the respect, all the applause, all the appreciation, the fulfillment, the achievement, the attainment, the full success. The being adequate, the being equal and commensurate with any requirement, the confidence, the ease, the peace, everything you want is in that box. Have you found it yet? No, you haven't. And you want to know why you haven't found it? Is that you don't spend your time looking. It takes time for you to find that. You have to sit down and be alone with God the first thing every morning. And then throughout the day, every 15 minutes. You have to rejoice about something. I rejoice that we have a pretty, well, a reasonably blue sky today. I do not see any aerosol except for the haze. The haze that has ruined the sky for years now by these jets who exude the chemtrails that have poison in them. Ethylene dibromide, which your children have to breathe. They exude these chemtrails and they spread out, and then all of these aerosol particles drop to the earth and you have to breathe them. But I give thanks today, the sky is reasonably blue. And I don't see any big aerosol, make-believe cumulus clouds. That's what I rejoice at. The sun's so bright I can't see my watch. What time is it, folks? 10 o'clock, I guess. And I rejoice for the beauty of this earth and for the glory of the skies, and who from our mother's arms we have been blessed on the way. Okay, you rejoice every 15 minutes about something and then you count pure thoughts. Here's a good pure thought for you. Join us in glad adoration. Praise ye the Lord, the King, the Almighty, Lord of creation. Praise him, my soul, for he is our health and salvation. There's a good pure thought. It is our health and salvation. All ye who something, all ye who to his temple draw near, join us in glad adoration. Praise ye the Lord, the King, the Almighty, God of creation. Praise him, my soul, for he is our health and salvation. All ye who draw near to his temple, come here. I don't know, it's such a beautiful hymn. I should have looked it up. Anyway, learn as many hymns as you can. You know, go to Borders and get yourself cassettes of hymns and listen to them and sing them and know them. And that certainly applies to me. Keep your courage flaming. We love you and we want you to be 100% happy. That is your holy grail. That is what you have to seek. But remember, you have to spend your time with it. You don't spend your time at the movies and watching television and in the department stores and with empty conversation with pals. You spend your alone time with God the first thing every morning. And you find out where your box of treasures is. Here's a song that I messed up. Praise to the Lord, the Almighty, the King of creation. O my soul, praise him, for he is thy health and salvation. All ye who hear to his temple draw near, join us in glad adoration. I apologize. I'm ashamed. I won't do it again. You are a beautiful cat. You look like .com. You're as big as .com. Here's another one with his hand up. He's got his left hand up. He's a left-handed cat. Environmental Protection Agency. Surely they are, but only if the violation occurred in his jurisdiction of Idaho, and I don't think it did. The EPA allowing planes to ruin your blue sky and drop poisons on you came from Washington. Folks, I present to you the third and fourth legal papers out of 6 of the week of July the 17th, 2006. This is to Patricia A. Coffey, Clerk of the Court, Justice Court, Town of Taconic, 909 Route 82. This is to Trooper Peter J. Andrews, New York State Police, Livingston Barracks, something something, State Route 9, Hudson, New York. I'll have to look up that number. This is to Gail, the County Clerk's Office, 560 Warren Street, Hudson, New York. And this is to Dorothy Prest, the Clerk's Office for the Supreme Court, Columbia County. This is to Glendora from Patricia Coffey. And it's received by Glendora on July the 13th, and it's memo endorsed by Glendora today, July the 19th, at 104 degrees. And it is signed by William H. Young, Town Justice, Town of Taconic. And Glendora says, please take judicial notice that Glendora requested stay of the $330 providing pending the outcome of her appeal. And the request was incorporated in her notice of appeal, which I read to you folks. And this is the people it went to. You know that. You just saw the envelopes. It includes this allocution as to how to file an appeal and the New York statutes, and tells you to hire a lawyer, and they could be sued for that. They could be sued for drumming up business for lawyers. Lawyers do not have a state license. Lawyers are not licensed by the state of New York. And this tells you what to do, how to appeal, and the laws, and I can find another one for you. '22 New York Code Rules and Regulations. There was civil practice laws and rules in here. Oh yeah? Well, there is somewhere. Here's one. New York State Civil Practice Laws and Rules. 5525 has to do with appeals. We saw that in the New York State Court of Appeals papers, right? Where the underlying proceedings were recorded by a court stenographer. Well, we didn't have a court stenographer. And this one is if there were not recorded by a court stenographer. The judge says, why did you park there? And the defendant said, 'cause there was a sign that said fine for parking. Mary brought me organic vegetables from her sister Dorothy's garden, and it was dill. Oh my, dill is delicious. Fresh dill. Fresh lettuce. And so that started a big salad, and it grew and grew the salad. Mint from out there, outdoors, and a tomato cut up, and Mrs. Cupbertson's croutons, and avocado, and carrots, and zucchini. I do not like zucchini cooked. I like it raw. So it made a delicious salad. That avocado really helps in a salad. Anyway, they all helped. It was succulent. Praise to the Lord, the Almighty, the King of creation. O my soul, praise him, for he is thy health and salvation. All ye who hear, now to his temple draw near. Join us in glad adoration. What happened in Atlanta the first time it snowed? The natives thought it was an explosion of grit. Oh, you cute little kitty. Did you see her, folks? Isn't that cute? She goes to walk with me. It's so cute. At a term of the appellate term of the Supreme Court of the State of New York for the 9th and 10th Judicial Districts, Honorable Kenneth W. Rudolph, presiding justice, so cross out the honorable. Honorable Daniel D. Angiolillo, cross out the honorable. Honorable Melvin Tannenbaum, J.J., cross out the honorable, just on 13 years of close observation of the courts. July the 5th, 2006, that's one day after Independence Day. Glendora appellant against Charles Dolan, Cablevision, James Dolan, Mac Budill, Thomas Garger, Charles Former, Christine Savarino, Cecilia Masterilli, Robert Callaghy, Sadly Stevens, Burke and Burke, and Patricia Langelotti. Defendants. Appellees. The case number should be 2005-1941, Westchester County, and the lower court number should be 0405-0356. Now, let's see if you can understand this English. I can't. The above-named appellant, moi, Glendora, having appealed to the court from a judgment of the Justice Court, Town of Harrison, Westchester County, entered on July 18, 2000, a year ago. Today is July 19, 2006, and the appellant having moved this court by notice of motion returnable May 4, 2006, and here it is 3 months later, July 5th, to enlarge the time to file an appellant's reply brief and to consolidate the appeals 2005-1941 Westchester County and 2005-1942 Westchester County, and said motion having duly come on to be heard. When are they going to learn to speak English? Now, on reading the papers filed in support of said motion, and no papers having been filed in opposition thereto, and due deliberation having been held thereon, and that is a huge lie, it is ordered that the motion is granted to the extent of consolidating the appeals numbers for purposes of disposition under 2005-1941, and otherwise is denied. In other words, they're going to consolidate the appeals, but they're going to deny me my chance and my right to have them review my appellant's reply brief. Now, notice anything here? It's sort of without a signature, isn't it? Do you see a signature? I see a rubber stamp. Now, the second sheet says, same caption, and it says, the motion by appellant, that's Glendora, granted to the extent of consolidating the appeals, numbers 2006, 1941, and 1942 for purposes of disposition under number 2005, 1941, and they got the wrong one, and otherwise denied. So, this is just between you and me, folks. Okay? Just between you and me. Here's what's wrong with this slop. I know Angelillo, he was a law clerk from some dumb judge in Westchester County, and he ran to be a Supreme Court justice, and he made it. And this is my answer. Received by Glendora on July the 13th, Thursday, and memo endorsed by Glendora today, July the 19th, 16. Says Glendora does not accept this with a consenting mind. Thank you for consolidating the appeals, thus correcting the tumult of the Harrison Court clerks. I don't think I've seen anybody as disjointed as the Harrison Court. It's the town of Harrison and the county of Westchester. It's a nadir when a clerk cannot read a caption. Don't you think, folks, that's the minimum that you can require of a clerk to be able to read? This paper is not signed. It is therefore a nullity. A nullity. The case, in big letters, was Glendora versus Charles Dolan through Langelotti. Why did the Nescient clerks make two captions out of one? And it looks to me as though you consolidated the cases upside down. Did you? The case is Glendora versus Charles F. Dolan through Langelotti. I believe they consolidated it, but consolidated it backwards and made it Glendora versus Langelotti. There's two stupid courts, one on top of the other. The Harrison Town Court and the appellate term of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, 9th and 10th Judicial Districts. Charles Dolan is the lead defendant. Langelotti is the last defendant. Why did you execute such a heterotaxis? You know what a Picasso painting looks like? A hand is where an eye should be. A foot is where an arm should be. Well, that's what this is with these two courts, a heterotaxis. Glendora drew up an acceptance to set the account straight on the date it was due. How could you make such a mess? You hodgepodge is as ugly as the Harrison court. This is to Glendora, to Angelullo. What's his first name? Daniel Angiolillo. You have wasted my money and I want it back. This is not equal nor commensurate to the requirement. Things are bad. Clerks and judges cannot read. You made yourself an accessory to the Harrison incompetence. You shelter the offenders with intent to defeat justice. Is Glendora to believe that this happened outside the regular course of things? Did it happen without design? What do you think, folks? Tell me. Deliberate or design? 914-949-9495. Answer, please. Is it entirely without prearrangement? And paragraph 19 is reserved, or on page 3 out of 4 or 5. Beta, why did you rob me of my right to file my reply brief? You'd give me no grounds. You can't do that. That fails to fulfill completely the proposed end, which is justice. I say the purpose of the courts is justice. What do you say? They never heard of this. You have to say why you denied it. You have to give grounds. You have to give some statutory authority. You have to give some law. You have to give some facts. You have to give some evidence. This has happened because of clerk error. That my reply brief didn't get there in their time requirement. Just a second, honey. The wind took away the last page. The clerk didn't tell me that I should say that a reply, if any, must be postmarked 7 days before the return date. That would have given me a chance to answer. Glendora claims in her affirmation that she did not receive the opposition brief until after the return date. But she wrote the reply brief instantly, she stayed up all night, and she sent it overnight, and that costs about $20 or $30 by the time you get through with the postage, plus the printing. And you go autistic, she says to Angiolillo. You do not meet the requirement. You are an acclivity with no reward at the summit. Gamma. By New York State analog to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 11, you have to sign your paper. The paper is a nullity. A rubber stamp is not a suffragan judge. Glendora paid for a judge, not for a rubber stamp. Further, this rubber stamp happened in July, and Glendora does not believe that there is a judge of the appellate term around in July. This was done, I think, by a clerk, and I suspect hanky-panky. Paragraph 32 is reserved on page 6. Yours in truth, in Amor Patriae, and in Amor New Yorki. Without prejudice, Uniform Commercial Code, section Article 1, Section 207, Glendora. This is Opus 1431. That's a lot of legal papers. It took 2 hours. The cost is $0 because I am not going to submit it. So there is no printing cost and there is no postage cost. And the internet number is I think it's around 4011 or 12, and it's something like the 14th edition in this 2-week period, or maybe it's 3 weeks. A chat with Glendora on 52 TV stations, 520 municipalities, including Washington, D.C. and Albany, New York. www.achatwithglendora.com. Lead people to be perfect. Stop the cruelty to animals. And sue judges when they break the law. Here is a judge who should be sued. Angio Lillo. This is a nice song. They don't play it loudly enough for you to hear. I'll sing it for you. Just as I am without one plea, but that thy blood was shed for me, and that thou didst me come to thee, O Lamb of God, I come. How can I help you? I would like to see you have all the happiness that you want. I would like to see you 100% happy. And I know how to do that. Always remember that sitting for you somewhere is a great big box with all the money in it that you want, with all of the prestige in it that you want, all of the success, all of the attainment, all of the honor, all of the preferments, all of the wealth, all of the power, all of the love, all of the appreciation, all of the applause, everything you want in life. And all the happiness you want. A woman this afternoon told me that her husband was leaving her because he wants to do plays. He wants to be in community theater, and he doesn't want to work. And there's 3 children to support. And obviously he needs a job. Is there happiness for that woman? Oh yes. Oh yes. In her box there is happiness. The happiness is her reliance on God and not on that husband. The happiness is in her strength of praying for that husband and making him rise above it all. Somewhere there is a place where they can meet, where he can do his community theater, and where he can support the family. She's supporting the family now. That's so true in many marriages today. The woman is the breadwinner. You say, well, that's no way to make that happy. Oh, yes, there is. And how do you reach that box of gifts, of riches that have poured down to you from Almighty God? How do you reach it? You sit down and you find out where it is. Now it takes a while for you to learn to go in the right direction, but it's all up to you. You just sit down and spend your alone time with God the first thing every morning. And you will hear where it is. And you will go out and find it, and you will be the 100% happy person that I want you to be. I think we covered everything for this. No, there's one more bad judge to tell you about. So before we close out for this 3-week period, I want to chat with Glendora. Let me go write that legal paper and let me read it to you. Here's a bad judge, folks. It just infuriates me. What is a judge in Rensselaer County doing in Supreme Court in Columbia County? I think that's actionable. Well, there's the bad judge. And I'm not going to write the paper, I'm just going to ad-lib it with you. And I'll read it to you. The date of it is July 6th, that's 2 days after Independence Day. And it says, regarding Glendora versus Diane Bennett and Alyssa Amato. Alyssa should be, her mother couldn't spell, she spelled it A-L-Y-S-S-A, index number 10764-05, and that index number cost me $315. Dear Glendora, we have received a memorandum of law from defendants counsel in opposition to a motion for re-argument. You have sent us many documents directly, but it appears that you have not formally filed a motion to re-argue with the Columbia County Clerk, together with the required fee of $45. In order for motions to be considered by the court, they must be filed with the Columbia County Clerk, as all motions have a $45 filing fee. The county clerk will then forward the motion to the Supreme Court clerk, who then makes sure they are sent to the appropriate judge. Please send the Columbia County Clerk the motion for re-argument and required fee, and until such time as that motion is formally filed, the court cannot render a determination. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Very truly yours, Christian F. Hummel. A Christian he is not. Acting Supreme Court Judge. I'll show you his signature. Well, Honorable Polly Tanner, from experience you can cross that out, the Honorable. Okay, am I going to write this paper? No, I'm ad-libbing it to you. I will not send you $45. And I want my $315 back that I paid to get justice in the Supreme Court, County of Columbia, State of New York. And I want my $65 back that I paid to appeal your rotten performance to the New York State Court of Appeals in Albany. I will not send you another $45. And I want my $315 back. You perform consumer fraud. You were advertised as a court of justice, and you failed totally to deliver So give me back my $315. And then when I try to appeal your bad work and get rid of it and pay $65 to appeal it, then I get nothing but hoop jumping and procedural exercise and frivolous nitpicking from the New York State Court of Appeals. So I want my $65 back from them, and you are not going to get any more money from me. And the New York State Court of Appeals wanted another $45, folks. This is a RICO, a racketeer influence crime organization that is going on in these courts. And I have the evidence for it, and I have the documentation. They are an enterprise. They are not halls of justice. They are an enterprise. And their motive is money. You bear witness to that. And they use extortion. And they commit hundreds of predicate acts a year. No, I will not send you $45 anymore, and give me back my $315 and give me back my $65. I have to tell you about the woman who bought a dress for $150 and the clerk guaranteed a fit, and when the woman got home with the dress, her husband had it. He had the fit. Peter says, I always give my wife the last word. And John says, you're very lucky. Mine never gets to hers. And the husband says, you don't have a sense of humor. And the wife says, oh, yes, I do, and I've got a document to prove it. And the husband says, what's the document? And the wife says, this marriage license. You have overdrawn the checking account. No, you have underdeposited. It seems a lot of the marriages I see, the only thing they have in common is that they got married on the same day. And Eleanor got up late and our garbage truck came early, so she grabbed the 3 bags of rubbish. She had her hair in curlers. She was wearing an old bathrobe. She ran down and she said to the driver, am I too late? And he says, nope, you can hop in. People in Manhattan have a delightful way of making a long story short. They interrupt. Christine says, the 4 four-letter words that I don't like about housekeeping are cook, wash, dust, and iron. Where'd you meet your wife? Well, she came into the travel bureau and she was looking for a vacation, and I was the last resort. Billy said, my wife and I had words, but I didn't get a chance to use mine. I did pretty well cooking today. Nobody cooks the way I do, except the U.S. Army comes pretty close to it. But my neighbor Mary and her sister Dorothy out of their garden, and these are all organic, brought me beet greens and 2 zucchini squash and dill. Oh, that dill is so good. And that beautiful fresh garden lettuce, the kind that grows this way instead of into a head. And here's your last question for this period, 3-week period. Why did Nancy put popcorn into the pancake batter? So the pancakes would flip over by themselves. This is Glendora, Cheerful Look at Life. Please, spend your alone time with God every morning and find out where that big box of precious, everything you want, 100% happiness, where it is for you. Keep the courage flaming. serving a summons. Shame, 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 shame. Toman Julian did not include his mandated statement of undisputed facts. If you're going to try to... I'm sorry, folks, there's one more report before we close down. This is Suzanne McCormick, pianist. Very nice, isn't it? Her husband left her $24 million and Bankers Trust. Won't let her have it. But the lawyers dig in. Dig in, dig in, dig in. And the surrogate court, where are they? The people of the state of New York, to all whom these so forth, this is to certify the letters testamentary of Edmund J. McCormick, that's her husband, of the village of Dobbs Ferry, and were duly granted and issued by the surrogate of the county of Westchester, and this is to Alfred A. Howell, Herman Markowitz, Suzanne V. McCormick, Edmund J. McCormick Jr., and look at this, Bankers Trust. Wait, I want you to see this. Bankers Trust Company of New York. Now these are the people who are the fiduciaries. And now Bankers, two things against Bankers Trust. There's no such company as Bankers Trust Company of New York. And that's one thing. And then Bankers Trust Company turns out to be a felon, and a felon cannot be a fiduciary. Look at that sunset over there. Can you see it? So that's one thing, and they are keeping her money away from her. The surrogate court is doing nothing to help her, and you can suspect that the surrogate court is getting some of the money that Susan should be getting. So these are the documents that I just wanted you to see. Criminal docket for case number 3, USA versus Bankers Trust. They are a convicted felon. How can they be a fiduciary? And they are keeping Susan from her money. State of New York Banking Department. And this is about Bankers Trust. Look how quickly that sunset disappeared. Bye, folks. This is the end of the 3-week reports. A Chat with Glendora. www.achatwithglendora.com. Pray for Suzanne Hayward. Pray for Suzanne McCormick.